Well, first of all, I just love skiing. Like, so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy, ever.
Yeah, I'm scared to death right now, but I've got this. Like, I know deep down inside I'm capable of what I'm about to do.
I came back way stronger. I felt like the rehab was pretty simple and straightforward. And I learned how to appreciate my body and how to take care of it, what to eat and like to stretch. I was 18, so I felt like I was invincible at the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Athletic Stance Podcast, a skier's perspective with your host, yours truly, Scott Chrisman. In this podcast, I have made it my job to go out and interview skiers at the highest level of the sport, to explore their perspective on life, what shaped and influenced them to become the person they are, and a whole lot more. First, let's take a look at our sponsors, because without them, none of this is possible. Our first sponsor is Northwest Tech. If you haven't heard of them yet, you're missing out. They hand make customizable 3-layer outerwear to order in the Pacific Northwest, and that means you know that it keeps you warm, dry, and looking unique while you're sending it around the mountain. They've been generous enough to give me a coupon code for my listeners. Use the code AOS75 to get $75 off any custom piece of outerwear. Their site is in the show notes. Our second sponsor is Organifi. Organifi makes organic superfood drinks, proteins, and supplements. These guys are awesome. Their product is top-notch and keeps me healthy and happy throughout the entire season. Their green drink even has ashwagandha and coconut, which we talk about in this episode. Use the code AOS for 15% off over and above any other sale that they're having. Their site is in the show notes as well. Check them out. I'm at a complete loss as to how to introduce our first guest. Not only is she a complete badass at big mountain skiing, she's a pilot, a philanthropist, and an adventurer. She's got a lot of amazing insights into her journey, routine, diet, and a whole lot more in store for us. Without further ado, Lexi DuPont.
So, my name's Lexi DuPont. I'm 28 years old. I didn't think about that for a second. From Sun Valley, Idaho. And yeah, grew up ski racing from the age of 2 all the way through high school. And then entered into my first big mountain contest in college at the Telluride contest and placed 3rd. And then pretty much after that, everything else was downhill. Just really love the big mountain world, and I started filming, and now I've kind of segued into making my own film, so it's been fun.
What is it about the big mountain world that you love so much?
I think when I first went to that first free ride contest, and just seeing the camaraderie and the tribe of people that, they travel around together, and it was way more laid back than ski racing. People are drinking beers at the bottom and listening to music and during their runs, and there weren't many coaches around. It was like kind of your peers were your coaches, and it also was an avenue to express like pure creativity, like, whatever I wanted to do. I wasn't following a course.
Yeah, totally. I think like slalom, giant slalom, whatever it is, like there's different aspects of racing, but it's all pretty much the same. Left, right, as fast as you can. Did you keep your hands forward? Did you have upper lower body separation? Were you on your downhill foot? All that. And then, yeah, there's like a huge difference between that and the big mountain community. I think skiing is community. I feel like it's not really about being a hero. Is there anything that you can speak to on that, or like why you love the community so much, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to someone recently about this, and it's like, I go up to Alaska with my crew of like 5 of us, and then I come back to Sun Valley, and I'm like telling these stories of skiing with my friends, and they just do not comprehend it at all. And so having those shared experiences with the people that, Tatum and I have been skiing together for the last 8 years, and she was just here last week, and we're able to just like connect on such a sister soul level because we've been through these highs and lows and life-threatening experiences. We trust each other on another level than just like going out to the bars with your friends. I mean, not to like dismiss those childhood friendships, but it's just no matter where I go in the world, if I run into one of my fellow big mountain ski friends, like, you just connect on a soul level. There's like so much that you don't even have to say because or even if you meet someone that you've never met before, but they're a big mountain skier, you're like, I get you. You're part of the tribe.
Yeah, totally. Do you have any morning or evening routines that you do every day that you think like lead you to success, or put you off on the right foot, or allow you to like have allowed you to become the person that you are today?
Yeah, I think routine is actually really important, and for a while there I lost my routine. I was just kind of a vagabond chasing storms, going everywhere, and kind of lost this level of self-care because it was just like charge all the time, wake up early, go drink beer after skiing, go to sleep whenever, like stay up late chatting with your friends, and then on 4 hours of sleep wake up the next day and go again. And my body just could not handle that for so long. And so recently I've been introduced to Ayurvedic medicine, and which is just a very ancient form of Indian healing, and it's a big premises on routine and healing through diet and meditation. And I'm actually just finishing a Virachana cleanse, which goes deep into your tissues and gets all the toxins out. Also from traveling, there's like a ton of parasites that we come in contact with. And so yeah, the morning routine, I think, for my success has been, waking up at the same time every day. And then I immediately go and brush my teeth. What a lot of people don't realize is your body does this natural detox in the night, and all of, when you wake up with bad breath, it's because those are all of your toxins leaving your body. So before you even digest any water or anything, it's really important to cleanse your palate and clean your mouth. And then after that, I drink a bunch of warm lemon water just to like restart the system, and I meditate for 20 minutes. I think that forced, ever-present centeredness can be translated throughout your life, and I've seen it from like my flying to my skiing of just high concentration, and even my motivation to like, I don't know, I'm constantly going. I'm constantly networking with people. I've now shifted my life into speaking for a louder audience as a steward for Mother Nature, and I think that all really was derived from meditation and really grounding down with myself and knowing what I want and what my path is, being really clear with those intentions. And then I actually eat the same thing every morning. It's like fried eggs with spinach and peppers, and it's like my go-to. Whenever we're traveling, I'm like, is there a kitchen? Because I have to be able to cook my own food. When you're on the road all winter long for like just months at a time and you're eating out, I think that can be really detrimental to your health. So cooking is super important for me.
Definitely. I lived out of my car for a year and a half in Montana and was doing the same thing with like staying up late, drinking, eating out, eating food that was coming into the town on the Cisco truck, and I was able to do it for so long, and then I hit this point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And
maybe that's age too. Like you get to 27, 28 years old and you're like, whoa. I need to take care of myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when we're hucking our meat off big mountains and hiking, and like I really realized lately is how my whole life I've been like growing my muscles and my bones as an athlete, and have kind of neglected the attention to the gut and to my organs, which need like that really mindful intention to heal and to operate at a ultimate level.
Definitely. I think it's something that is coming to the forefront of like global consciousness right now is diet, and how important it is to have like a symbiotic relationship with the bacteria in your gut, and with, you know, mind, body, and spirit. And a lot of that has to do with what you think, what you eat, how consciously you're breathing, routines and practices and all that.
Totally.
So
Yeah, you feel the difference pretty quickly too when you start practicing it.
definitely, I was on a bad path like 10 months ago, and I found meditation and completely changed my diet, eliminated alcohol, and all of a sudden just new doors have opened up in my life.
That's exactly my same thing too. Like all 6 months, all winter, it was like no gluten, no dairy, no alcohol, no sugar. Like sugar's in everything. It's really hard to eliminate. And also it was like kind of the shift in culture for me, because like après is such a big part of skiing. You go down to the parking lot with the whole crew and have a beer, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna have a La Croix or like a Virgin Caesar. But I
Totally.
was definitely crushing the next day, you know, and my muscle recovery and my focus and my mind was on the right path.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I found that I wasn't distracted by thoughts of last night or other things. I was able to really focus in on what was important. Do you have any tips or tricks to being around that culture but not partaking in it? Because
Right,
that
it's a
can
good
be
one.
super hard.
So hard. I think at first too, it was like, I remember my first time going out like last fall. I was like with my cousins in San Francisco, and I was not drinking, and I'm usually like life of the party too. And at first I'm like, what do I do with my hands? Like thinking that everyone's like looking at me, or like, why is she being so awkward and weird? And like that was all in myself. And so just getting over that hurdle of like it being completely in your own mind. And it actually forces you to be like more extroverted, I think, when you're in those social scenes and in the party scene at the end. A great tip for me was like, because everyone wants to buy you a drink. They're like, or a round of shots for everyone. And like, as soon as the shots came out, I'd kind of just like step to the back, or like, but if they were buying drinks, I would just get like a soda water with lime, and no one could ever tell that I wasn't drinking, you know? And then I'm out and I'm like the present person at the party. I'm able to like take photos of everyone and remember what dumb shit everyone was doing and remind them the next day. But I also just like vibe off of that energy so much that I still go out like regularly and just engage in more meaningful conversations and dance my booty off.
Totally. I almost find that it's like more empowering once you get past that level of like feeling embarrassed or social anxiety or whatever that feeling ends up being. I feel like more empowered, kind of like what you're saying. You're the one that can remember what's going on or what happened, and you can take the pictures and you
Drive everyone home.
Yeah, totally. I'm always offering like, hey, let's go out. We don't have to get a taxi. We don't have to get an Uber. Like,
I got you guys.
yeah,
Full team
totally.
player.
Yep, totally. Was there a specific instance that made you want to quit drinking, or?
It was just this Ayurvedic stuff of realizing how toxic sugar was for my body. Yeah, it wasn't like I never had a problem with alcohol or drinking. It was just simply for sugar and health reasons, and realizing how much sugar is in alcohol. And I mean, like recently I was at a wedding in Cape Cod, and I like drank one night with them. So it's like, for me, it's about the long-term goal of health and like keeping this routine of eating what's good for me. Because sugar is definitely almost poison. It's like the greatest killer of our time. So big believer in cutting that shit out.
Totally. That's really kind of actually how we got connected. Was I made a post on Facebook about processed foods and
Yeah.
sugar. You commented on it. I was like, she would be excellent to be interviewed. So
It's hard though. Sugar is in everything. Like going out, it's when you're eating out, you're like, could I have the salad without, dressing on the side? Because dressings are filled with sugar, and all of the marinades that they put on meats, and like just sauces and even stir fries. So it's definitely a lot cleaner eating. But I've seen just my vitality is increased, my mental stamina, and then also like I took it. So I was on this diet for 6 months, and then come springtime after Alaska, I was like celebrating. I'm like, I'm gonna have a beer, we're gonna celebrate. And I took like a month off from the diet, and just seeing how drastic, like I just kind of got super depressed and like lethargic and didn't really have energy to do anything. And I kept saying that it was like my adrenals were shot from the winter, and that I was just really tired from such a long season, which partially it was, but it was also just like sugar taking over my body and like drastically changing my mind and mentality. So yeah, the last month and a half I've been like back on it's called the body ecology diet, and I highly recommend everyone looking it up because it's a game changer for sure. I think it's like my secret weapon to success and longevity. It's hard though. It's definitely takes a lot of discipline. But once you start doing it, like after the first few weeks of cutting sugar out, your body stops craving it. You find substitutes like lemon water, or and there's also great recipes I found online where I can make cookies and things that are made from completely plant-based ingredients. Make a lot of my own coconut milk, which I like put some vanilla in it. That's like a nice treat. But when your body starts to take out the sugar, like those little non-sugar things actually taste super sweet. I don't know, I made this smoothie this morning I took to my sister, and I'm like, I don't know if you're gonna like it because there's no sugar in it at all. And she was like, oh wow, like there's no bananas or anything to sweeten it. And but for me it's like the most delicious treat ever because it's coconut and berries, and it's really great stuff. Also like Hana One, they make really great supplements. They make this ashwagandha supplement that I just put in my tea every morning. And ashwagandha is one of the only intelligent herbs that we have on the planet that kind of, no matter what you need, it will go towards. So if you have problems sleeping or you need energy, like it will direct itself towards what your body needs. And yeah, that might sound like full woo-woo, but I believe in it 100%. It feels so good.
yeah.
And triphala also is a really great one to help with digestion.
I've never heard of triphala, but ashwagandha root, especially for our society, we're such a stress-based society, and ashwagandha root is really good at helping you manage your cortisol response, which is directly related to sugar and stress and those sorts of things. And it's a hormone that affects, why people put on weight around their gut and all sorts of things like that. So I definitely take ashwagandha as well.
Good stuff.
I love it.
Yeah, triphala too. I do triphala like twice a day, morning and night, and ashwagandha. And then a lot of minerals. I think we, like especially as athletes, we lose a lot of mineral intake when we're constantly exerting ourselves. So it's important to juice up on minerals.
Definitely, especially like we've removed a lot of the minerals from soil by the way that we've farmed and everything.
Totally.
And like from a masculine standpoint, testosterone levels are down like crazy amounts from what they were 100 years ago. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with the mineral intake, and it's important for any sort of endocrine system balance. But yeah, minerals are like super important. Are there any foods that you eat that
I have like a pretty high fat-based diet. Mostly like avocados, eggs. I eat a ton of meat still. And then cooked vegetables. I think a lot of people get gung-ho on like juicing and raw vegetables, but it's kind of hard to digest, and you don't really benefit as much as like something that's a bit softer. And then, yeah, speaking to routine and eating, like our bodies are in a routine. Like there's certain things that happen throughout the day. Like your liver starts cleansing at 10 o'clock p.m. Like even if you're traveling, your body knows what time it is. And so keeping up with your body's clock and when it needs to eat. When I'm in the backcountry, snacking throughout the day is really important for me. I bring a lot of seaweed and pickles and a lot of kraut and kimchi into the backcountry with me. And actually, it's kind of odd. Well, it's hard because like all of these bars that they make are all sugar, and it's all dried fruits. And so finding what worked for me that had no sugar in it was really, like, they make beef jerky is also really great if you can find the plain ones that don't have a bunch of marinades, and then cooked vegetables and hummus and stuff. So whenever I pull out my snacks in the backcountry, everyone's like, holy smokes, like, what is this spread you just brought with you? But I'll go all day. Yeah, a lot of fish, a lot of meat, but again, knowing where my fish is coming from, smaller fish are better fish.
Yep. Have you ever, you said you do a high-fat diet, have you ever experimented with a ketogenic diet?
No, what is this?
So, ketones are, they kind of call it like the fourth macronutrient. When your body has a certain amount of fat and absolutely no carbohydrates, your liver starts to process the fat into ketones. And on a cellular level, your mitochondria, I hope that I'm speaking to this right,
this.
But your mitochondria are powered by glucose generally. You need some sort of carbohydrate, is what a lot of doctors or nutritionists would say, is that you need some sort of carbohydrate to power your cells. There's actually another macronutrient, it's not actually a macronutrient, but it's called a ketone, which has like 5.6 calories per gram, so it's kind of right in between carbs and protein and fat. But when you can trick your body into going into a state called nutritional ketosis, which when you're eating, it's like 70% fat, 20% protein, and 10% carbohydrates-ish. Your body starts processing the fat into ketones, and then your cells on a cellular level, you're running off of ketones instead of glucose.
Right.
And it's a cleaner, more efficient energy source. There is definitely there's a range of opinions on the ketogenic diet. A lot of doctors
Like
just
anything, right?
freak out about it. Exactly. But yeah, it's definitely, I can give you some more information about that if you want.
For sure. Yeah, nut butters and avocados and coconuts. Man, yeah, making your own coconut milk, I think, there's so many health benefits of coconuts.
Totally.
And they taste delicious, so like
So good.
a win-win.
Yep. Totally. What's your favorite part about skiing? Like, what brings you back? I know that you've had near-death experiences, and you've had, experiences that could easily shut you down. We were just talking about, I broke my back a year and a half ago, and it kind of changed my perspective. I know in the article you did for Forbes, you talk about falling down the couloir and stopping before the massive cliff and having a change of perspective. But what brings you back? What are you what is it about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, well, first of all, I just love skiing, like, so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy ever. Of just, like, I think being really good at something too helps, because it's like so much easier. It's just instinct, and it's just flying down mountains is like, you feel invincible in a lot of ways, but that's also a very dangerous place to be at the same time. Being able to reel it back in, but like we were talking about before, the community, and also the natural progression of always being able to get better at something. It's like kind of that instant gratification. I mean, we definitely crash and take some hard hits, but when you're able to like really focus on something and want it and enjoy it, and then being able to overcome that and then progress to the, like, oh, I went that big, that was easy, I can go bigger, like, let's send it a little bit harder and faster, but by also like listening to your body. There's like, my parents are always asking, when are you going to stop doing this? Why do you have to keep pushing it? And like, why do you have to keep pushing women skiing. There's so many other options. And I think that the natural progression, but also the awareness in myself of knowing where my body can go, and but not going too far, you know?
Yep.
Like keeping that fine line of not pushing it to the point of hurting yourself or even worse. Keeping it fun, but also mastering your skill. Every year I go up to Alaska, like this year is my 8th season up there. And just seeing the progression every year. Like every year is better than the last. And the team that I have up there. My brother-in-law, Reggie Christ, is my guide, and he lives across the street. He's been like my mentor forever. And being able to like hand select the group of people I want to ski with up there, because I've kind of like worked my way up the ladder of priority. It just feels really good when it all starts to come together.
Definitely, and you've obviously been skiing, like you said, since you were 2, so to be able to take something that you probably didn't even remember learning how to do, but it's in your blood, and make the steps, go through racing and Junior Olympics and stuff like that, and then go to the big mountain, and it's like an ever-evolving progression. We've had a similar progression in everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely relate.
And you work hard for it, and then it pays, and then you see the direct payoff. Like, I'll be, like, you know, training all fall, and then it's just like a lifetime of experiences that build up and accumulate to this. But I get that question a lot, like, are you ever burned out on skiing? Are you ever sick of it? And, like, I'm lucky enough to be able to say no. Every day I ski is better than the last, and so fun. Even, like, the worst, most heinous conditions ever are so fun.
Yeah.
You can complain and whine about it sometimes when you're out there, but you're like, okay, this is way better than sitting at home or anything else in my life.
Definitely. I feel like in society, we're really good at identifying problems right now, but we're not very good at creating solutions. There are certain people who are better at creating solutions, and those are the people who go on to be successful, is the ones that identify a problem and then go and, you know, they figure out how to fix it. But while you're out there in the moment, sometimes it's really easy to be like, oh, I wish that it was sunny. I wish that we had more powder. I wish that the snow conditions were different. But yeah, I don't think, for me, I've ever truly had a bad day skiing.
Never.
Even when I've been injured, or, you know, I still appreciated everything that happened out there. I've found that I got burnt out of ski racing.
Yep.
And I think we can kind of both relate to that because it was so square. There's just a box that you had to fit in, and that...
There's no self-expression.
Yeah.
Which is like the key to success, I think, and to progression.
Definitely. I think, you know, there are 7 billion of us, and one of the things that makes the human experience so amazing is that we are all so unique. And so to be able to go out and like have your paintbrush on the mountain with your skis, or, you know, it's definitely just a huge area of self-expression.
And now even getting to the point of, you know, making my own films, it's like, it's endless.
Yeah.
And I'm able to collaborate with people. Like, right now I'm working on my season edit. It's called Love to Your Mother. It's about love to Mother Earth. And I was just on the phone yesterday with this spoken word poet out of LA who was like done some amazing environmental poetry. And so I just hit him up on Instagram, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to collaborate. And so bringing him into the project, and then talking to artists that like want to do the graphics for the edit, and bringing in musicians that I've met along the road, and kind of curating this awesome community around one piece of art, pretty much. And then you look into the the different layers of all the places I traveled, and who was involved in every scene and situation and every line, and how that accumulates into like this beautiful piece that, you know, it's only 2 minutes long, and we kind of fly through them on Instagram with our thumb or whatever. And I remember when I was younger, I'd watch these ski films, and I'm like, I can do that. Like, hands down, I got that. They made it look so easy. And then you go out there and you try, and it's like, you're lucky to maybe get 7 shots in a whole season, and you're out every single day, you know?
Yep.
And some people come in, they're like, oh, I'm gonna get like 3 shots a day. You're like, if you get 1 a day, you're like slaying.
Totally.
There's so many factors. You have weather, you have snow conditions, you have group dynamics, you know, you've got equipment issues, you've got location, everything.
How do you...
Money, funding, holy smokes.
That's
That's
a
been
huge
like the
one.
biggest headache ever.
Yep. How do you separate, like, how do you still appreciate every day that you're out there, even though you may not accomplish getting a shot for like weeks, and you know you have this goal of, I want this banger season edit, I want it to come out like this is, you know, my idea. How do you balance those two ideas and still kind of stay true to yourself and centered, and not like it? Life is obviously always a roller coaster ride, but it's how you manage those ups and downs that really shape you and make you.
Yeah,
Do you have any...
it's so easy to get caught up in like getting the shot. And you'll go out with some people and it's like that's all they care about is getting the shot, and they crash and they get so mad and they're throwing their equipment, they're like bursting into tears, so frustrated. And I think my mentality has always been like, pretend there's no cameras and just see it as it's just a day out with my friends, and that takes the pressure off in such a big way, and I actually perform so much better. And then also like surrounding myself with the people I like to ski with. For a long time when I was first like coming onto the scene, it was like, give me any opportunity, I'll ski with anyone. And I would go out with some of these people that I'm like, oh my God, we have nothing in common, like you're driving me nuts, stop whining or whatever it is, like just enjoy where we are. Like we're so lucky, like we all have to just pinch ourselves how lucky we are to be able to live this life of like being immersed in Mother Nature, ski and POW around the world every day, and like having sponsors and support to like drive that. That's huge. And then also like getting a larger perspective and realizing that the ski world is microscopic in the big scheme of things. Like, so it's so easy to get over consumed and think that this is it and that skiing is everything. But it's a very small part of what this life has for everyone. So I think that gives me like a really positive attitude to realize how lucky we are. And then the shots start coming because the pressure is gone.
So obviously you've gone through a progression, you've come to a certain level of success, and now you're saying you get to speak to an even larger audience, and instead of being niched in the ski community, you get to talk about stewardship and, you know, the responsibility that our generation has been put in our hands to take care of what, you know, what we're surrounded by right now. What drove you to become so passionate about the environment? I think probably a pretty obvious answer, just being out in the environment every day, but is there any specific instance that, you know, really has led you, or has it been a constant progression of like seeing the winters change? Or
Yeah, I think it started with so my parents used to give me and my sisters like an allowance. Whatever age we were, that was the number of dollars we were given. So it's like, you're 9 years old, here's $9. And we were supposed to take half of those dollars and put them in like a little locked box. And then once we had, and then the other half went to like candy and movie theater tickets and kid things. But then once we had enough money in that box, we were told to give it to something that we cared about. So that always went to the animal shelter.
So
you know,
cool.
when you're like a little grom, like this needs to go to rescue all the dogs. And so from then on, it was just kind of instilled in me and my sisters to give back. And when we went on vacations, we would do like service work vacations as a family. And
so cool.
yeah, so when I was a senior in high school, I went to Cambodia and helped like rescue girls my age out of the sex trade industry for 6 weeks living in Cambodia. And then me and my younger sister went to Tanzania and volunteered in an AIDS orphanage and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro as a fundraiser. And it was like, it kind of put this power in our hands to be able to like do a bunch of fundraising before we went, find the organization we wanted to work with, and like our parents just was really empowering as a young girl to be able to like feel that you were making a difference. And so from there, it kind of like obviously naturally went towards the environment from skiing and seeing like every year I go back up to Alaska and I see the glaciers are changing, or even looking at pictures from Kilimanjaro, the glacier from when we climbed it, it was massive, and now it's like this 200-foot little icicle pretty much.
Crazy.
Yeah, so we're witnesses to this, and we've been told our whole lives like, you need to recycle and turn your lights off, and that's what our generation has grown up on. But now I've been kind of asked, it kind of exploded this year, really. I went to Standing Rock to stand with the resistance of the pipeline just to inform myself.
Yeah.
Like, it was for no one else. It was like, I've seen these Facebook posts and I need to go check it out. So we went, like, hopped in the car, me and some of my friends from here in Sun Valley, and on Thanksgiving Day, and just went to check it out. And then when I came back, everyone was like, we need pictures, we need an article, can you write us like 200 words on what you saw? And I was like, whoa, yeah. And so then Rainforest Action Network actually saw that, and they invited me to come speak at some of their events. And they are like an amazing organization. If people don't know, they need to look it up right now just to see what the stuff they've been doing. A lot of it's protest work, but they've taken down Disneyland and Wells Fargo, and they're like one of the biggest savers of palm oil and the palm trees in Indonesia, and they're just doing great work. So being able to come and speak just from personal experiences from skiing,
Yeah.
speaking to an audience of people that they're not necessarily skiers, that most of them are activists, and I can just tell them firsthand stories of what I've seen. And so, yeah, that kind of moved my content this year. I started a web series called Water Worshippers, just kind of as a call to action to our community and skiers and outdoor enthusiasts to like take a look at how much water they're using and the destruction of water, and maybe use their voice too to speak up for something that they care about, because I mean, mother athletes and as environmental lovers. So and then from there, yeah, me and my friend Michaela, Michaela's done most of the legwork now, but I helped her start this concept called the Down to Earth Expedition, where we went up to Iceland this spring on a boat. It was a completely human-powered expedition, and we were teamed up with 47 different schools around the world doing virtual climate change reality through Skype. And then we encouraged all of the different classes and kids to participate in the 100-mile diet challenge. So you source all of your food within 100 miles of your location, and you get to know the farmers and the fishermen and the hunters, and maybe teach their parents about it or their family members. And that even just brought a lot of awareness on our experience in Iceland, talking to the fishermen and seeing their direct stories of what's changed with the fisheries up there. It's warmed, the oceans have warmed 2 degrees in Iceland in the last 2 years, which is like catastrophic. Yeah. And he was telling us how they used to be able to walk across the fjord that we were looking at, and he's like, it barely even snows in town anymore. Just so warm, and not having the fish come up where they used to have like thousands and thousands of fish. They're not even coming through there anymore. So that was really fascinating. And then the final episode, which we're editing right now, I went to Nicaragua with a group of my friends. I met these 2 beautiful girls from Nelson, British Columbia, and they started a nonprofit called the Latitude Project. And so they do water filtration systems, and they have this organization called See the Sea. So they take village people and jungle people to see the ocean for the first time and teach them how to surf.
So cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. So we went down and we made 26 water filters and put a bunch of well covers on some existing wells that were contaminated, and then took these kids to see the ocean for the first time, and they were losing it, like so scared and timid at first, and then by the end of the day we had them all surfing on big foam boards.
So
it was
cool.
rad. So just to bring that appreciation for water and overall the environment. And that's kind of an endless topic. I think about this next season and how I want to segue that into something bigger and greater. And water is endless, and you start talking to people about it and how much they want to contribute towards it and help out, or have ideas or concepts that yeah, it kind of is like wildfire that way.
Totally.
And it feels good to use my skiing and my voice for something greater than just check me out, how cool this is that I jumped off this big cliff or did this trick, you know?
Yep.
I think that it's still really respected and beautiful, and there's definitely a place for it in this world, but I think we all have the power to do something greater than just that.
Definitely. When I broke my back, there was a huge change in perspective, and I realized how selfish I was being by chasing my goals in skiing without thinking about others as well, and without thinking about how I could have an influence. That isn't to say that I wasn't thinking about the influence that I could have on others, but I definitely wasn't enacting it, and I wasn't intentionally trying to make the world a better place every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's so much more rewarding to be selfless than it is to be selfish.
It's true. But that doesn't come naturally either.
No, not
It
at
takes
all.
a while, and I think that's just like growing up.
Maturing.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mhm.
Is there, not everyone is going to be able to do what you're doing. Like, you're positioned in a place where you're an authority figure in the skiing world. You have this amazing ability to network, and other people can definitely network and can do the things that you're doing, but you have put in the time and effort to get where you are now. Are there any tips or tricks that you could pass on to others that may not be in your position, but ways that they can help the environment, help preserve water from a very basic standpoint?
Basic standpoint. It was interesting. I was at this environmental conference this summer, and the head of the environmental sector for Microsoft was there. And he kind of gave us like this pretty heartbreaking talk of like, it was an accumulation of speakers, and then he was like, we're past the point of trying to prevent global warming. We need to start thinking about how we're going to survive it, because we're past the tipping point. And that was kind of a big eye-opener for me. I was like, I've been preaching, like, recycle, turn your lights off, stop idling. And it's like, okay, that's to be habitual. It's now time to think on a larger scale of how technology, I think that's actually the only way we're going to be able to do it, can help the future. So right now I'm actually building a house in Revelstoke, British Columbia.
So sick.
And I've made a choice to do it passively. So it's completely heated by the sun, and
Yep.
I won't need any external heating or cooling agencies. Just super insulated. And so like choices like that, that's a big choice, building a house, but choosing to do it in a sustainable way.
Yep.
Instead of just like this archaic way we've been building for so long that is just pretty primal, ultimately. There's so many other choices, and there's technologies that are leading towards that. I also think that, calling the people in charge has been such a big change, even just seeing in our current times with our current president and being able to supporting the people that are in place that can do something greater. Those phone calls go a long way if you call your governor or the head of your state, and then I think also educating the next generation.
Yep.
And making it cool. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's been one of the thing I've attached to the most is I actually had this young, a 16-year-old girl come up to me, and she was like, I follow you on Instagram, and you make giving back and helping out the environment look so cool. Like, me and my sisters, we want to invite all of the congressmen to go camping with us. And I was like, you're 16 years old, like, go for it. And
Yeah.
their dad owned some kind of glamping company, and so it was like high-end camping.
Yep.
And so I was like, if a 16-year-old called a congressman and invited them to go on like a luxury camping trip, like they're most likely going to say yes.
Yep.
And so I think there's a lot more power than people think that they have.
Definitely.
They think they have to be someone or have, a huge audience to be able to advocate, but the little guy can do a lot too.
Definitely. I think that's a really good segue into another topic of how so many people in society place their power in other things. They idolize people who are at the top of their field, or they idolize actors, or whoever it is in the celebrity world. And as soon as you do that, you've lost your own power.
Yep.
And I think it's really good to put yourself around mentors and around people who are doing what you want to do. But as soon as you actually become like in the physical presence of them, so often you'll realize that they're no different than you.
Yeah.
They've just spent more time intentionally chasing that dream.
Yep. 100%.
I think that's like super
yeah, I
powerful.
think realizing, it takes a lot of courage to realize your self-worth.
Definitely.
But everyone is capable of, like, I don't know, every single human is like a brilliant, miraculous creation, and it's magic that we're all even breathing and living.
Yep.
And capable of so much. It's just setting those intentions and putting in the time, and that's a combination of confidence and passion and hard work. And I think confidence is actually like the secret weapon
Totally.
to success. Like, you could sell dog shit on a silver platter to someone if you're confident about it.
Yep. It could be art.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Look at some of the art these days anyway. They sell for so much money, but it's because the creator is confident and believes in what they're doing.
And can sell it and articulate it in a certain way.
Yeah, and it's hard right now too. I have a lot of friends that are like kind of stuck in these paths in their life where they're like just doing this job that they've had forever. They're not passionate about it, and they don't feel like they're making an impact or a difference. And they're always asking me like, how did you do it? Like, you're doing everything that you wanted to and that you're loving to do. And like, well, I didn't take no for an answer, one. And like, I tried. And if I failed, like, I tried again, or I learned something from it. And there's definitely this huge risk of vulnerability. And, if you're going to quit this job that you've had and it's been making you a ton of money to go live in a van to pursue your, like, dream passion, there's a lot of risk involved there.
Yep.
But a lot of the time, if you think it's a good idea and you're passionate about it, thousands of other people are going to think it's a good idea too.
Yep. I think taking those leaps, oftentimes the uncomfortability lies, or the fear lies in the unknown. You don't know if it's going to catch you. The universe is actually going to provide that safe landing space.
Totally.
And it might not be a soft landing. It may not work out exactly the way that you want it to, but oftentimes if you leave the stability and chase that, I think the universe does provide.
I do too.
Especially if you have the right intention.
Yeah, someone said recently, they're like, life's too long to do the same thing the whole time. Because everyone's like, oh, life's too short, but it's like, no, life's pretty long, and there's a lot of opportunity around every corner and under every rock, and you just have to try. Like, I think that's something that was instilled in me as a really young child. My parents would, like, we were such little groms jumping off the biggest cliffs in the lakes in the summer, and it was like, we just had to try. My parents actually had this rule growing up that we had to try everything on our plate at dinner time. And if we didn't like it, then we could go make ourselves a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But it was like, you weren't leaving the table unless you had to at least try everything.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a perfect metaphor through life, for sure.
Is there one piece of advice, and we might have just kind of touched on it, but is there one piece of advice that you would give to, a younger female or male skier that wants to be doing what you're doing? And I think we probably just talked about that quite a bit, but
yeah.
Maybe
I'd
like
say
a concise...
work hard,
Yep.
It definitely takes so much work at the beginning, and doing it every single day, and surrounding yourself by people that are supporting you. If there's ever any coach or anyone that's like, oh, you don't have what it takes, like, just give them the middle finger.
Totally.
Because, like, I definitely grew up here in Sun Valley, and I never won a single ski race my entire ski racing career. No one, like, I still even get today some of the parents and coaches being like, we never would have thought you would have been the one to do it. And I'm like, gee, thanks. But I loved it so much, so I kept with it. And Yeah, and then yeah, like I just said in the last question too, is like the biggest failure I think you could ever have is not trying.
Yep.
I even see that with older people and like trying new things. They're like, oh, I could never try surfing behind the boat. I could never do that. And I'm like, well, have you ever tried? And they're like,
Right.
no. And then we get them up, like it takes them 4 or 5 times, but then they're up and they're like, I just learned how to surf, you know? And I'm like 34 years old, 40 years old. And I'm like, yeah, you just got to go for it. There's some fear there and you're like on that change wheel and this frequency that's always moving, but that's how you keep up with life.
Yeah, totally. Chasing what's uncomfortable, I think, is like
Yeah.
a really empowering experience.
Totally. Doing things that you're not good at or you don't like to do are probably the best things for you.
Right? Picking out those weaknesses and strengthening them. I
Mhm.
think that's like really cool. I'm reading a book right now called Think and Grow Rich, and it talks about how you should make an accurate list of your strengths and weaknesses and then actively go and work on your weaknesses. And I think that's just so
important.
So you're already making a huge impact in the world, obviously.
Thank you.
But if you could have one significant impact in the world once you're gone,
Oh,
what would it
wow.
be?
That's a really good question. If I could have one single impact, I don't know. I think it's like I probably would listen to this and want to change my answer like 100 times. But well, the first thing that comes to mind is like my family has this pretty amazing legacy of adventurers and doers and change makers. And so I want to continue that, and I think by like creating a family of like with just little niñas and niños that are awesome active people in this world, that can continue that to make and better the world and change it. I think that that'd be a really important thing. I also, like as an influencer now, I realize how kind of immortal that is in a way of just like, you know, that's kind of an egotistical word to use, but I think if you have people that you can impact and influence and change their life in some way, I think that that's really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And then they want to spread those same vibes to their friends or their next generation or the people in their communities. Creating a conscious community, I guess, in all forms of the word, in
Yeah.
all levels, I think would be a great thing.
Yep. And I mean, it may sound egotistical to some, but really, energy is never created nor destroyed. It only changes form.
Oh, I like that.
And so, like, when you put that energy out and you give it to someone else, it just continually perpetuates in the universe.
Totally.
And so, yeah, I think, like...
Put out as much energy as possible.
Exactly. Good energy, that's for sure. About your family being adventurers, I know that you want to do the flight paths that your aunts
Yeah, my aunts and uncles.
took.
Yeah.
Can you just explain something about that for
Yeah.
us?
So, my grandfather, actually, I was named after. His name was Alexis as well. DuPont.
Okay.
He was really an amazing guy and huge aviator. He actually worked. He went to Princeton and studied under Einstein, and then worked for the Wright brothers in their bicycle shop.
So cool.
Yeah, and he was just
Wow.
this amazing pilot. And so he had a ton of kids, and my dad being one of them. And all of my aunts and uncles raced airplanes in high school. That was like their sport. And he just taught them all how to fly on the farm out in Wilmington, Delaware. And so from there, yeah, my dad's two sisters, Kitten and Lainey, were the first female pilot team to fly across the United States, just dead reckoning, like following arrows on the ground as they went across the U.S. There's other female
Crazy.
pilots, like obviously Amelia Earhart was there, the Powder Puff days, but they were the first female team, and they were sisters. And then my dad's brother and sister were the first to fly the Amazon. They were actually delivering an eyeball to a village down in the Amazon. And then my dad's father, Alexis, my grandfather, was during the war, was the first to land a plane in New Guinea. So yeah, then after my dad's brother flew the Amazon, he came up here to Idaho and started the Salmon Airway taxi and put in most of the backcountry landing strips around here in Idaho. And that's kind of how my dad came out here, and where he met my mom. And so yeah, I really this last year started to get into flying. My dad has a 180 Cessna from 1955. It's like
So
super
cool.
antique old plane, tail dragger. I haven't been certified to fly it yet, but that's my goal in the coming months. And want to redo my family's flights
Yeah.
with their similar. Want to get as close to the same navigation techniques as they had.
Totally.
There's obviously a lot of laws that have changed with the FFAA of low flying regulations and things like that. But
Yep.
so yeah, that's like the next chapter, and also just being able to access some of the ski terrain in this world through planes, just open a whole new door of adventure.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and there's also like there's some conflict there because I get a lot of call outs. They're like, oh, you're an environmentalist, but you're a pilot. Like, you're flying and burning jet fuel, but you're standing at Standing Rock. Like, what's the deal here? Are you confused? And I think at first I'm like, well, shit. Like, that's a really good question because I'm human. Like, I want to be able to have these really wild life experiences, like, live on my family's legacy at the same time, like, do it in a responsible way. So I think that while reflying my family's paths, there's a way to provide technological resources and information and test the different environmental technologies in different remote areas. And actually, someone recently, they're like, you should team up with Tesla and start testing some of their stuff. And I was like, I never even would have thought of that. Like, that was so far beyond anything I'd ever think would be possible. But now I'm like, oh, if they think I'm capable of that, then maybe I should think about it, you know? Like, it's funny how some other people's intentions can, like, confirm and bring confidence in yourself.
Yep.
I'm like, Tesla, are you kidding me? That is such a gnarly brand name and, like, such a game changer in this world. Like, no way would I be able to do that. But now I have it written on my dream board, and I'm like, fly with Tesla equipment.
It's pretty crazy. Elon Musk has been someone that's been on my dream board to work with as well, just because of his intentional living. And then I find the way that he lives paradoxical as well, because he's got Tesla going on, but then he also has SpaceX,
Dude.
which dumps like
SpaceX is insane.
It's such crazy technology, but the amount of fuel that they burn to get
there
out there, to me, it's kind of there's no other place besides Earth that we're meant to live. Like, we just saw the solar eclipse, and so
coolest
amazing.
thing ever. Man, the hype, they like played that thing down almost.
For real. the fact that Earth and the moon sit the perfect distance apart for totality to happen in the way that it does, and every little, like, we're in this beautiful forest right now, every single thing when I look around seems like a miracle. Seems like divinity, just like, this is heaven to me. And that's kind of been a philosophy that I've always lived by, is that heaven isn't a place that you go, it's where we've got.
Yeah, we're in it.
We landed here, and we're lucky. And so yeah, I think that it's funny because it obviously, there's so many things in life that are paradoxical, where you're trying to do good and something bad can come from it, or you know, but they're also, generally, you can find this middle ground. And you can use maybe something that isn't the best in the world for promoting the environmentalism or whatever for environmentalism.
Right.
So yeah, it kind of gets in this point where if you overthink it too much, you're just gonna freeze and not accomplish what you want to accomplish. And you know, we're here to live it up and to be
Yep.
you know, to experience and try our best. And we're not always going to be able to accomplish what we want to,
Yeah.
but I think that intentional living of like,
Is important. That's why I think, like, right now we're sitting outside my dome, like, tiny living. This was just kind of my first step towards that, and now building this passive house in Revelstoke, I think hopefully will counteract some of the flying missions I have in mind. But just because I like to fly and adventure doesn't mean that I don't care about the environment. And so showing that humanness, I guess, is important.
Definitely. What's one piece of encouragement or wisdom you've received that stuck with you from any point?
From any point. I think, like, currently in my, like, modern lifestyle right now, I think it's that practice of ever-present centeredness coming from meditation. I've seen the greatest gains in my life from that, and just the clarity that's come from that. And then also what I've said before is just, like, you gotta try.
Yep.
You gotta try, and that even goes to, like, oh, I met that one guy on the chairlift and he started that, like, technology company, and he mentioned something that he likes skiing, and I have his number, but that was like 10 years ago. Do you think he'll remember me? And I'll call him up anyways, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then that starts like a whole new relationship. And yeah, I was scared at first to network to someone that removed.
Yep.
But then it created beautiful things. And yeah, if you said, sorry, I'm out, like, I didn't lose anything. There was no loss.
Yep.
Only gains. So I think just putting yourself out there in that way is really important.
Totally.
Yeah.
What's one technique that you've used to overcome fear? Because I think a lot of what we've talked about could be shut down by people's own fear and insecurities and, even just stopping to drink. I think a lot of people get so much social anxiety and fear in that. Or on the opposite spectrum, real life and death experiences that are shown in contrast to you, whether it's from a friend passing away or your own experience or whatever. What's one thing that you do to overcome
fear?
Mitigate fear or become at peace with fear?
Yeah, there's so many different kinds of fear, like
Yep.
you're saying, like fear of the heart, of the mind, of the soul, physical fears, social fears, psychological, everything. And I think that a healthy relationship with fear is super admirable.
Yep.
When I'm in Alaska and you're skiing those big lines and there's definitely fear there. You're like, oh my God, on the third turn, is this whole thing gonna rip and I'm gonna just lose it and die? Like, or waking up that morning, like, is this it? Is this the last one? And being able to overcome that with confidence, and like, there's so much self-talk with that.
Yep.
And practice, like my first year up there, terrified.
Yep.
This year though, I was having a conversation with someone. I was like, I was flying in. Usually, when I'm flying up to Alaska, I'm like gripped. I can't sleep. Like, just like so gripped, so scared. And this year I flew up there like so confident.
Yep.
100%. Like, this is my year. I'm not, like, I got this 100%. Which was kind of a scary place to be too, because I was like, am I too comfortable? Don't have that governor. But I had the best season up there I've ever had, because it was fully confidence. And those moments on top of the mountain, I think breathing is huge.
So huge.
So huge. Like, just removing myself from the situation. I know it's not like the best practice in the world, but I'll put on some gangster beats in my phone in my pocket. So I still have, like, I don't have headphones on, but just something to remove me from the situation just a tad bit.
Yep.
And the confidence is built from that too. I'm like taken to that when I heard that song in the car with my girlfriends, or when I was on the mountain or on the dance floor.
Yep.
And I'm able to just like relax.
Yeah.
And I think that moment of relaxed mind state is everything.
Definitely.
Because then, like, that predetermines how the entire line's gonna go.
Yep.
But I think, fears that my family has when I go up there, if I'm gonna come back. Like, my older sister, it's like her biggest fear ever, and she shares it with me, and I'm always like, Can you keep that to yourself, please?
Yeah.
But those are completely different than the ones that I'm experiencing. And people just need to realize that this is like a very well calculated and practiced life that I'm living.
Yep.
I'm not going out there and doing anything that I don't think isn't like I'm not 100% sure with.
Yeah, totally. And you could just as easily die by getting hit by a car, by everyday life. It happens, and like you're going out obviously chasing things that are more extreme than what other people are used to. But at the same point, life is just kind of Russian roulette in some ways,
It is, but there's also, I've lost so many friends skiing.
Yep.
And everyone's like, well, at least he died doing what he loved. And I'm like, fuck that, man. Like, no. Like, he didn't want to go that way. Like, he had a family and kids and had so much going for him. And, like, that, he didn't see that coming. He wouldn't have gone out that day if he knew that was the case.
Yep.
So there's, like, this mitigation of uncertainty. That is the ultimate challenge.
Yeah.
But, yeah, when I had that crash a couple years ago down the Couar, I just said to myself, like, nope. Like, I'm not going to die in the mountains. It's not the way I'm going to do. And maybe that is too super egotistical for me to, like, predetermine my own fate. But I think that there's power in that, too.
Definitely. Like, we talked about putting intention out in the world. Like, I think, if you have something that you're not confident about, then there's more chances that it's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And that, might be a little woo-woo for everyone, but I definitely think
true.
that,
You talk to any I'm a part of this community, it's called the Summit Series, and they bought Powder Mountain, and Richard Branson
Yep.
Came, and just all these amazing change makers and super monumental people. And 80% of them have vision boards and believe in setting intentions.
Totally.
And they say that is like the whole reason towards their success. And even here in my house, like, I have a cork board where I put up like my long-term goals of what I want to achieve, and then I've got a dry erase board of like the short-term stuff, so I can constantly keep it flowing and changing.
Totally.
But I'm looking at it every day.
Yep.
And it's just like, it happens. It works.
It's pretty crazy the way that it works. I started doing that 10 months ago, and just the amount of things that have happened are, like, looking back at goals that I've written down in my notebook or stuff like that, I'm like, I never thought that was going to happen in 5 years, and it's already happened in a couple months. Like,
Pretty crazy.
It's super crazy.
Mm-hmm.
One last question while we're on the topic. Both you and I have lost friends in the mountains, and that can be one of the hardest parts of the sport, at least for me.
Yeah.
Is like, losing the chance to spend time with the people that you love, or not being able to spend that time. Is there something that is there a practice that you have that helps you grieve, or something that you do? I think, like, for me, it's different with each friend.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that I do to grieve or honor their process, or continue their legacy. But is there anything that you have that you do that helps you with the grieving process, with carrying on legacies? Or
It's definitely, each one's unique for sure. But I think the healthiest thing for me personally is to, like, not shove it away.
Yep.
It's so easy to, like, have that fear and pain, and to just, like, keep going with your normal life, and like, distract, go.
Yep.
And I think it's super important to be able to sit with that pain and just fucking cry.
Yeah. And
feel terrible, because that's the release of the emotion. And then in talking to people, I've spoken with therapists and things like that, when, like, the fears are then circled back around. And
Yep.
But the funny thing is, it actually, with my friends that have died in avalanches, it makes me want to go into the mountains more, to be closer to them.
Yep.
Which is kind of a crazy experience. Yeah, like, my best friend and ski partner, and her dad died this year in an avalanche. And yeah, her brother was on the rescue, and seeing how that just tore that family apart so brutally, so unexpectedly. But then being, the person that McKenna reached out to go back into the mountains. She came up to Revelstoke a couple weeks later, and we went skiing together. But watching her process of like not being able to sleep or eat, and totally freaked out to go out into the backcountry.
Yep.
And then us going out there together and just having fun, taking it mellow.
Yep.
Skiing like low consequence areas.
Yep.
And laughing a lot.
Definitely.
It was like a good healing thing for her.
Yeah.
It's a long process. I don't think there's any one little thing that's going to work for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be unique, but I think honoring the sadness is important.
Definitely. I think that's the number one umbrella that you can put towards any of those situations is being comfortable with the uncomfortableness of the sadness, and
Totally.
Honoring that I think is huge. One of the reason why I'm out here in Sun Valley is actually my friend Jordan passed away speed flying a year and a half ago on the mountain, and he started a kids camp called Progression, and his brother continued the kids camp and needed a coach last year. So I was like, I have to come out. This is part of, like, I really want to meet the family. I want to spend time around the mountains that he was in. And I was supposed to learn how to speed fly from him 2 weeks after the accident. And so I felt like it crushed me. I had broken my back a month and a half before that. And, like, there were these thoughts of, like, why wasn't it me? Like, I've done so many stupid things in my life, whether it, whatever it is. Like, he was just so humble. The best energy was, like, out there for everyone else, and just, like, just one of those people that is his energy is undescribable. And so for me to come back out and spend time with him, and then, or with his family, and essentially his energy out here last year, and then again this year, and I got to learn more about speed flying. I bought one of his old wings from his brother last fall, and then spent time learning how to speed fly this winter, and then I got to go speed fly a couple places that he had speed flown around here. And I think, like, when I was in the air in the last 2 weeks, there's just this, like, presence of being with him, even though I'll never tangibly be able to see him or be around that energy. There's still kind of just this, like,
he's still there.
This presence. And I think that for me was, like, so empowering.
So empowering.
So empowering.
And showing up for the family is so important.
Yep.
It's almost like I feel awkward, like, talking about it. It's like I'm prepping people to deal with death in a way.
Yeah.
And skiing has made, there's always been this daunting fear of death, especially in, our modern culture. Like, no one talks about it.
Yeah.
No one ever, it's like everyone's greatest fear in the world is dying. It's this fear of the unknown. And I think I obviously know an unusual amount of people that have died at a young age. But it's also made me a bit more comfortable with talking about it and supporting the people that have experienced loss. And I think that, we celebrate birth, and we should also celebrate death in a way too.
Yeah.
Because they're the same.
Yeah. And it's all a part of the life cycle. And I think being out in the mountains and being in touch with nature the way that we are, it allows us this perspective to see the whole circle. Yeah. Versus in a city, you kind of only see one half of the circle. And it's
healthy.
Yeah, it's super healthy, and it's hard. I think it's harder for people to fear death so much that it paralyzes them
Totally.
than it is to see the whole spectrum and then be able to go out and still chase what you love. And
Yeah. There's also, I mean, I've definitely seen my friends as we get older and my like peer group calming it down a little bit, like
Yep.
only going when it's 100%.
Yep.
And you might only get that opportunity once or twice in a winter if you get it.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. And it's not like every day you go out is go hardcore every single
Rainbows
time.
and butterflies.
Yeah. No, and that's taken a lot of learning to get to that point, but just not really listening to your body, yourself, your group, the snow, the conditions.
Yep.
And only going when it's like 110%.
Yeah. I think
I'm toning it back the rest of the time. Like, sometimes I'll go out and people are like, wait, are you sure you're a pro skier? You didn't jump off anything today, when we're like lapping the hill with the Groms and Revelstoke. And I'm like, I don't need to wreck my shins today. Like, I've got a huge trip tomorrow, you know? Like,
totally.
taking it easy. But
Yeah.
it's funny to look at them and be like, oh my God, I was so that person.
Right? And that was probably even like an internal monologue that was going on out there. Like, every day, I know that I went through this. I'm like, I have to jump off something big today. I have to throw something sick. It has to be stylish. I gotta learn something new. I gotta, you know, I'm gonna go knock these tricks off the list. And sometimes it's just not your day.
No. And so when it is your day, it's on. It's fire.
Yeah.
I've been talking to like my girlfriends that wear Red Bull helmets, and I was like, what, has it changed you?
Yep.
And they're like, well, at first when I had my helmet on, it was like I had to be the best skier on the mountain, because if someone saw me from the chair with the Red Bull helmet, like I couldn't be holding back. I had to be going for it.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's not very cool, is it? And they're like, no, not at all. Like, the pressure was on. And then getting over that hurdle and being like, just confident in yourself.
Yep. I think it's really, you start looking for external validation as soon as you're thinking that you need to go and check that trick off the list or whatever, instead of just being happy and grateful that you're out there and like meeting yourself and the external world exactly where you are in it. I think that's like
Yeah.
really
Speaking
hard for
on
anyone.
the external validations, like stickering on helmets and things like that, like all the sponsors on your skis and helmets. And I think like some days I'll go out with just like clean helmet, clean skis.
Yep.
Because I just want it to be me in the mountain, you know?
Totally.
There's no external validation like you're saying.
Yep.
And then as soon as you put on those helmets and those sponsored logos, like it just changes it a little bit.
Yep.
And there's a time and a place for all of it, but I definitely have like my kit for like when I'm shooting and I'm filming.
Yep.
And then I've got the one where I'm like, I'm going soul riding today and I want no one to see me. Just gonna like hide under the profile.
Yeah.
Put on some
Totally.
music and cruise.
Yep. Yeah, for me, I used to get really frustrated with when skiing would get too serious. I'd get really frustrated and I'd be like, okay, it's time to go snowboard.
Yeah.
Because I would eat it off the chairlift. I would eat it on catwalks. Like, I could make it down some pretty cool
So
runs.
humbling.
It's so humbling. And I would do it in my full colorful gear so that people would expect me to be good or like look at me and be like, this guy has to rip it. And then I would eat it off the chairlift or, you know, whatever it is. And it was just this awesome experience because I wouldn't know. I would think that other people were thinking, oh, this guy has to be good, you know, whatever. And then I'd go, yeah, you just like force yourself to be someone you're not. Yeah, uncomfortable and being humble. It just shows you, you know, like that you've done so much work in one area of your life, but that doesn't mean that you're crushing it in all aspects. You have so much to learn and so many places that you can go and find those weaknesses or find those places where you're uncomfortable and you need to go work on it. And
It's the most beautiful thing about life is just like the constant learning.
Yeah.
And the morphing and changing.
Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Northwest Tech and Organifi. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. We'll be doing this weekly. And if you'd like to check out my free ebook about becoming a better skier, check out academyofskiing.com. Thanks for tuning in. And I almost forgot, a huge shout out to Toy Box, who did the music that you hear in the background. If you like what you're hearing, go check him out at soundcloud.com/toy_box, or check out the show notes for a link. Adios, guys, and happy shredding.